So speaking of nostalgic 1980s properties, let's talk about Ghostbusters. We didn't get a chance to mention this yet, but there's going to be another new Ghostbusters sequel-ish? Right. It's basically going to be Ghostbusters 3. After all this time, they've waited, and now since, of course, the 2016 one was a big steamy pile, they're just kind of going to ignore that, as they should, in my opinion. And the son of the original director, Ivan Reitman, Jason Reitman, is taking over, I think, writing and directing? Or at least writing and producing?
Nope, he's writing and directing.
Good.
Well, I mean, the more major thing is that he is directing. The more major thing is that he is helming the thing. It's his vision at the end of the day.
And he was on set when the original movie was being filmed before anyone else got to see it. So he was there.
I had heard that he had some role as an extra in the original.
He was the kid at the beginning of 2 when they go to do a birthday party. And he says to them, my dad says that you guys are, what does he say, fake or something like that?
It's been a ridiculously long time since I've seen Ghostbusters 2, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, he says something to that effect. I'll edit it in the scene here with the audio.
You know, my dad says you guys are full of crap. Jason,
well, some people have trouble believing in the paranormal.
No, he just says you guys are full of crap, and that's why you went out of business.
Okay, so I do want to say, based on the initial press we're seeing so far, based on the teaser we saw, it looks like he knows what he's doing. It looks like he's going to do this whole series justice, which I think for a lot of fans of the original, it's a breath of fresh air, especially after Paul Feig just kind of defiled the series with his last one.
Talk about resurrecting the dead. He dug up Ghostbusters from the grave and then he pissed on it.
Yeah, so I do want to cover that real quick. So this was not a good movie. I know critics are sort of bending over backwards to appeal to the SJW crowd. Yeah. I get why people think representation matters in Hollywood. I get why people want to see more female-led projects, but if you're just making a terrible movie for the sake of diversity, you're what's the point? You're not helping anyone out. You're just setting your whole movement backwards.
Yeah.
I really don't think there was that much that was good about the 2016 version. I like Kate McKinnon's character, I guess, but I think that's more because I just love SNL than thought it was a genuinely great performance.
Yeah. Even the effects weren't great. They looked like something from Eddie Murphy's Monster House.
I mean, hell, you look at the original 1980s version. Those effects still hold up for the most part. How the hell did they end up making worse effects in this modern movie?
Yeah, if you consider how good they look, and during the time that movie was made, those effects were way better than the ones in 16.
No, there was so much of it that just felt like a CGI mess, and that whole final fight just felt I don't know, it was made in a bad After Effects file, I guess. Yeah,
and the thing was, it didn't have to be a reboot. They could have just said, okay, this is a new team that were trained by the old team, and they could have had them in it more than just cameos, and they could have actually continued it and acknowledged the previous ones.
Yeah, but they didn't. Respect for the whole franchise,
and they decided to just do a remake. But you know what? I'm glad they did now, because that thing sucked so bad that it doesn't even exist in the same timeline as the original.
Yep.
So we're safe. That's good.
I do want to say, I'm not sure exactly what interview he said it in. Jason Reitman basically made the point that, he's a fan of the 2016 version. And I don't know if he's actually a fan or if he's just trying to appease the fans of the 2016 version. I don't know if he's just trying to stop himself from riling any feathers. But
I doubt he's an actual fan. Even Dan Aykroyd basically disowns the movie.
I'd be highly skeptical of that. I can't imagine anyone genuinely enjoying that movie. There must be people out there who do, beyond just the whole representation thing.
Yeah, but, there are.
I mean, there's people with terrible taste out there. Let's be real. But yeah. So I think he handled the thing perfectly. I think that's really the only way you can sort of appease those sort of I hate using the term SJW over and over again, but that's the only real way to sort of appease those SJWs.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when you say SJWs, you mean the people who browbeat others when they say that movie isn't good, or that it's bad, or that it isn't real Ghostbusters. Because if you, at the end of the day, we don't hate you if you like that movie. If you like it, fine, but don't rag on other people who say, yeah, that's crap.
Right. And
call them, this and that. Try to label them as something because they have an opinion that differs from yours.
Yeah. No, I fully agree.
Yeah. And on that note, if you like this movie, you suck. You're a loser. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But, just based on what we're seeing so far, I think Jason Reitman's handling the whole thing with respect. We actually just listened to a Bill Burr clip from his Monday morning podcast. He had Jason Reitman on, I guess, last week.
This was the 18th, so this is 3 days ago at the time of this recording.
So it sounds like Jason Reitman, first of all, really knows what he's doing. I mean, he directed Juno. He's had a really long career directing indies, so he definitely has that sort of experience. He's definitely an accomplished director in his own right. But it sounds like he's really treating the whole project with respect. Like, he knows what the fans want. He knows what made the original Ghostbusters great. So, he's making Ghostbusters great again.
He says he says repeatedly that this is absolutely for the fans, and we're taking all of that into consideration. I was one of those fans as a kid because I was literally there. And he says that they're even taking out old assets from the movie that they used back in the 80s, and they're actually using those to film new parts. I think he mentioned specifically the a title poster or something that they physically filmed it with a lighting setup instead of going into a digital program and creating it. So that kind of dedication is admirable. So I have hopes that this movie will not let us down. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I'm anxious to see it. Like, again, what we're seeing so far looks really good. So,
and they're bringing the old car back. That was the first thing that got me hooked. Was they showed the old car, and the new car wasn't bad. I actually liked the fact that it was just a newer model of the same exact vehicle. But that that one was from the 80s. So I thought that was an interesting connection. But this is the classic one. The old,
I fully agree.
What is it, a Cadillac? Cadillac hearse?
Sounds about right. I do want to say, we haven't gotten too much of the plot so far. It almost sounds like Ghostbusters with kids. Like, it sounds like they're doing a Stranger Things type thing. But,
I heard that.
In a horror format. Which I guess there was a scene in the second season, which I've been meaning to see the second season of Stranger Things for the longest time, just because I love the first season. But apparently there was a scene in the second season where you sort of see these guys in Ghostbusters garb, trick-or-treating for Halloween.
Yeah.
I remember. I think people have been
that.
making that connection pretty heavily, So it's nice to see that dynamic. I think it's going to inspire a new generation of kids,
Yeah. That might be what they're going for.
Yeah, which, again, is pretty awesome. You don't really see a lot of movies nowadays that sort of have that inspirational factor. Everything is almost politicized,
Yeah. Politicized, a lot of philosophical leanings, adult thinking.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to see this thing.
Yeah, we all are.
Heat them up. Do, re,